Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's another one of our monthly career webinars for Return Peace Corps volunteers. I'm Ann Baker. I'm the Vice President of the National Peace Corps Association, and we're very excited to sponsor this series. It's part of one of our goals, which is to help our community thrive. And returning Peace Corps volunteers are a very important part and the main part of our community, and we want you to thrive in your job search in particular, which is what we're here to talk about today. We're very excited to have Dr. Ronda Ansted with us, and she is leading these series of webinars. It's a monthly series. Please make sure you sign up for the next one. We'll put the link in the chat before we're finished here. And also make sure you register for this one today, because we will be following up with the recording here and also the PowerPoint slides and other resource materials to help you in your job search. If you're not familiar with NPCA, please visit our website, rpcv.org, and join. Membership is free. And we invite you to join NPCA and any of our more than 180 affiliate groups scattered around the country and around the world. There's got to be a number of them there for you to help you in your networking as well. I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Rhonda, and we'll get started on this topic today, which is leveraging your strengths for the job search.
Thank you so much, Anne. It is, as always, a delight to be here. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things as a career coach is working with people's strengths. And so why is this important? And a couple of things before we dive in. I do want this to be interactive, and so I am going to be asking questions along the way, and so please give me information and ask questions as we go along. Also, towards the end, we'll have a chance to do some Q&A. So if I'm missing you at the beginning, I'll catch you later. And one of the things that when we think of strengths, we often are thinking in terms of what can I bring to a job? And so I want this session to help you start thinking about how you can leverage your strengths in the actual job search. And that way you will have more opportunities to do things that come naturally to you and that you enjoy. And often when we're looking for work, it's a really lonely, tedious, frustrating, demoralizing process. Tell me if I missed any adjectives there. And so what I'm always looking for are ways to keep people motivated so that they don't give up too soon and take a job at McDonald's or, something that your uncle recommended. Or if you have a job, that you keep going until you find a job that you love. And so I want to start by taking that employer's perspective about what are they looking for when they are trying to hire somebody. And so basically what you're looking for is someone who can do the job, someone who can do it well, and ideally, someone who makes a positive impact on the organization, because I'm sure we've all met people who can do the job, but can also bring everybody down around them. So that this is really what they're hoping for. And so how can they figure out if you're someone who can do the job, can do it well, and can make a positive impact? And so basically, past experience. So if they know you, that's a really good way for them to know if you can do the job and do it well. And if you've got the education or the credentials, then that gives them a little bit of an indication, especially if you can do the job. And then resume or LinkedIn is another way where they can see, all right, here, here's your past experience, here's your education. So that gives them a bunch of different things to look at. And again, that generally tells you if you can do the job, but not always if you can do it well and if you can make a positive impact. And however, these days there are more ways of finding out about people. And a lot of people have an online presence, whether that's their own web page or social media or commenting on forums, writing articles, those kinds of things. And so that's another way that people can see how you think and how you're able to put yourself into words or videos, those kinds of things. Also, referrals are super useful. So if somebody at the organization knows you and puts in a good word for you, that's a really useful tool for hiring managers, for your future boss to know if you can do a good job or not. Finally, the interview, that's where a lot of us think in terms of resume and interview as where we're able to really showcase our strengths. And then there's also career and job assessments. So online tools often, or paper and pencil tools that will, ask you questions, you do writing samples, that kind of stuff. So this is pretty much all that a hiring manager has. And even though it looks like a lot, it really doesn't give them very much information. And so what we want to talk about today is how to leverage these tools, how you can leverage these tools to really showcase your strengths, and also make sure that you're choosing the tools that you are best able to demonstrate your capacity. So let's talk about, so here's a question I want you to ask yourself. Where are you the strongest in the mind of a hiring manager? So is it your past experience? And so as we go through these, so past experience, if you're strong in, if you've got relevant work history, for example, and you've got a long employment record, then that gives you some good relationships that you can build on. And so this might be a former boss, this might be colleagues or coworkers or your former staff. But so if you've got a long history, then think in terms of who could vouch for you and be able to recommend or give you a lead or a hand up in the job search. So if education is one of your strengths, then again, this is really, the job search is so much about networking. And so the alumni, either that you know or that graduated before you, those can be really valuable tools to help you learn about jobs and, again, put in a good word for you. Then, okay, so then we talk about resume and online profiles. And so this is most useful, is a really useful way to set yourself up for the job that you want, as long as you describe your experience in a way that covers what they're looking for and talks about how you did the job, how you did it well, and how you made a positive difference in the organization. And so then your online presence, if you've got a strong online presence, then you want to really, again, gear it for the job that you want. And so that means that any articles or blog posts or social media or videos or, anything else that you do, make it relevant to the work that you want to be known for. And then obviously referrals and network. I mentioned about networking. And so this is something, everybody who's listening to this webinar, this is one of your strengths, is the RPCV network. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to leverage that, but it's also your friends, acquaintances, and other connections. And then again, the interview process, if you're very good verbally, then that's another way that you're going to be able to describe yourself and showcase your value. And now interviews don't have to be job interviews. They can be informational interviews. But when you're talking to people, you want to really think through how are you going to talk about what you can contribute to the organization? Okay. One thing that I want to say, so Anne mentioned that this is a monthly series. So I've given several webinars, and some of these things I've already talked about in detail. So I'm not going to go through how to write a compelling resume because there's a whole webinar on that. And in the email that you get at the end of this process, you'll get, I'm pretty sure that we give links to past webinars. And so you'll get a link to that. And then the whole networking process, I did a webinar on that as well. And so we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail around that because I've talked about that at length before. But again, I want you to think right now, which of these, and again, I really encourage you to use the chat group, which of these do you think are some of your strengths going into the job search? So is it the fact that you've got relevant experience? Do you have a relevant degree? And everyone should say that I've got a strong network because that's what you've got. Or do you have a good online presence? So so if anyone wants to share about which of these they see as something that they've got that they can leverage. All right, my favorite is dead air. So okay, so past experience in education, great. Okay, interviews, excellent. Networking, reaching out to people, informational interviews, that's great. Past experience, And so then we've got the, what have you been focusing on, the past experience, but hopefully this is bringing up some new ideas of what else you can leverage. So education and interviews, excellent. So let us, oh, and then I forgot the very last slide. So career or job assessments. So that people aren't generally good at this. The reason why I brought that up is because they are used. And if you do need to do an assessment, you really want to know what they're looking for. That's going to be helpful. And all right, so okay, so here's where I didn't do my due diligence on my animations. But what I want us to start with is kind of drilling down to what's really most important. So, or how we can reframe some of the things that I talked about in the previous slide here. So I see some of these skills, let's just put them all up here. So relating is the process of building trust and rapport with people. And so sometimes this is done face-to-face through conversations, but sometimes it is, you can also do this through online groups, but really this is a characteristic that's common for a lot of people of, basically I'm a good people person. So you might be extroverted or introverted, but that ability to build rapport and trust can be very, very useful in the job search. And so if that's something that you're good at, then you absolutely want to use that as one of your strategies of building relationships. So then we've got what several people mentioned, past experience. We've got the actual work. So if you are good at what you do, and that's one of your biggest strengths, then doing volunteer work and or pro bono projects or temporary or contracts, a way to get yourself in front of the employer that you want to work for so that they can see you, that's a really legitimate strategy. And I know so many people who got the job that they wanted by starting as a volunteer. So if like building rapport and talking to strangers isn't your thing, but you are a hard, good worker And if describing your value in writing is challenging for you, this is something to really take seriously. And there are a lot of opportunities for volunteering, and sometimes you have to be creative, but they do exist. So then there's another category of researching. And so again, there are some people who are really great at ferreting information online. And the reason why this is useful is because the more you know about the organization and the people that you might be working for, the better you are able to write your resume for what they want in the interview, to talk about what's most important to them. It's a great way of finding, again, names of people who work at a company that you want to work for. It's a great way to find companies and organizations that you want to work for. So again, if some of the traditional job search skills aren't something that you're super comfortable with, but you could spend all day in front of a computer ferreting information out, you can use that here. And so then let's talk about writing. So some people are much better with the written word than they are with like talking about themselves, for example. And so if writing, again, is one of your strengths, then what you want to do is make sure is to get into forums where you can interact through the written word. And so that can be LinkedIn groups, that can be writing a really strong LinkedIn profile and resume, and also just approaching people through email and having email conversations as a way to build rapport if you're more comfortable in that medium than you are as far as, meeting strangers face to face. And then finally, I just want to talk about the people who are really comfortable with talking in front of large groups, so the public speaking, or even in small groups, but don't have a problem making conversation. And so this can be a way that you can put yourself in front of employers so for example, in Washington, D.C., there is the Society for International Development, and they are a consortium of international development-oriented organizations, not just in the D.C. area, but primarily. And so they have events all the time, and they have committees where they're looking for people to present on certain topics. And so if you are a subject matter expert in something, and comfortable talking about that, then that's another thing where you can look for opportunities. So basically what we're doing here is looking to see how things that is to identify things that come naturally to you and think through how you can use them in the job search. So, okay. So I just want to pause and just see that there's been some people who are commenting. And so Catherine, hello. And I understand that volunteering is not about replacing your job. So all of these ideas, so yep, you need to eat, but at the same time, so volunteering might not be a good way to showcase your work, but finding an appropriate temp job is one way that you could balance both. And so again, it's really thinking through about how can you best give information to the employer about your ability to do the job, do it well, and make a positive difference in the organization. So we're looking at this not necessarily from your perspective, but from the perspective of who you want to hire you and how you can come across in a way that that makes you a really competitive candidate. Okay, so So last month, we really focused on developing a plan. And so if you're feeling a little bit lost about what should I do on a daily basis to make sure that I am working towards getting a job, then last month's webinar is going to be a really good place for that. And so what we talked about is that you want to have really clear goals. You want to know the kind of work that you want to do. You want to have strategies that that are time bound. So, for 2 hours a day, I'm going to email people that I have connections with and see if I can't set up a meeting with them. Or, 2 hours a week, I'll do that. Another 2 hours, I'll work on my resume, those types of things. So you want something that you can put on your calendar and do. And you want your plan to be, again, very focused on action items. And what I talked about last month was to build on your strengths, to make sure that you're doing work that doesn't burn you out, because the job search is notoriously high burnout. It can be incredibly frustrating. And so the more you're leveraging what you're good at, the more you can participate in the marathon that is the job search. So we've got the plan, and that, again, clear goals, time-bound, actionable, builds on your strengths. But what we're focusing on a little bit more is the strategy. So it's how you do the action steps in a way that allows you to keep going forward. And so my idea of a good job search strategy is one that you're going to do. So that's why I'm giving lots of different options of things that you can do that give employers the information they need to hire you. But what are these activities that you can do day after day and that you actually do enjoy? And so this is another place that I just want to pause for a second. And so in fact, let me go back if I can. So if we're looking at these 5 different areas, which of these do you see as something that you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy talking to people? Do you enjoy writing stuff down? Do you enjoy doing the work? So what are the things that from this list that you could see yourself doing on a regular basis? Okay, so the relating and the public speaking, great. So Kristen, start looking for avenues where you can talk to people who might want to hire you. The relating and writing. So again, finding those people to talk to, looking for those forums, and reaching out to people at a sought out organization 2-3 times a month. Ken, I love it. That's a really good way to keep top of mind with people. And all right, so we're seeing, so this is what I'm wanting you to think through is, okay, where does it make sense for me to spend some time and to do it strategically? So if you like being in online groups, then absolutely participate in them, be active, respond to questions, ask questions. And so as you build a presence in that respect, then you can say things like, I am really looking for a job in the DC area or in Seattle or San Francisco, and I would like to do X, Y, and Z. Does anybody have any information? And so you don't want that to be every posting, but that's one way that you can use your interest in participating in online groups to start getting some job leads or start talking to people who are doing the work, and so that they can see your interest and your professionalism. And So courses on LinkedIn, learning, there's a lot of really good stuff out there. And what I would say to that is that then you want to make sure that you put that into action. So turn that strategy into a plan. And so Emma's been sending out cold LinkedIn email messages, and a 25% response rate is what you should expect. And so you're right there and where you should be. And I want to say a little something about cold calling or reaching out to people through LinkedIn to broaden your network. What you're looking for are people who like to help. You're not trying to get everyone you reach out to give you a job or give you information. What you're trying to do is cultivate a community of people that I call advocates, where it gives them pleasure to help other people. And that's about 25% of the population. So 20 to 25. And so the way that you figure out if this person enjoys helping people or not is to ask for it, to ask for advice. And so then when you get a response, then that's going to be someone that you can have a dialogue with. So you want to expect a 20 to 25% response rate, but know that the people that respond are the people that you want to talk to. And so let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, so again, just in terms of what you want to spend at least a good chunk of your time is stuff that you enjoy. Just do it strategically. Okay, so then we went through this. So what I really want to do, so I didn't put a whole lot of content here because I really want this to be much more of a Q&A. And so this webinar is really going to be an opportunity for us to kind of dive into challenges that you guys are facing and how you can use your strengths to overcome them. So let's just look at some of the things that I work with as a career coach a lot. And that is, I work with a lot of people who their past job was 2 or 3 years ago. And so their resume doesn't look super great. People who are going through a career transition. So their past experience sets them up for a certain kind of job. They don't want to do that anymore. And so again, their resume is not going to be the easiest way to tell a future employer that you can do the job that you want to do and do it well. And then I also work with a lot of people that just don't have a lot of work experience. So they're just out of college, or, you know, their first experience out of college was the Peace Corps, and which is a very different kind of job that not everybody understands. And so then another challenge would be, you know, not knowing very many people in the field that you want to get into. You just moved into a new place and again, don't know that many people. So here's where I want to ask, what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing? And so it could be some that I've listed here. I know a ton of people are going through career transition. Yup. And so that's, so what else? So we've got the career transition, new town, with limited work experience. Yep. And not getting a response. All right. So doing a lot of applications and transitioning to the private sector. Clarity in what you want to do and have relevant people help you. 1099 for 15 years, right? So moving from self-employed to finding a job. And so for those people that are adding things, I want you to think about which of these strengths can help you. So for those people, okay, so I'm going to just scroll back a little bit. And so for career transition, or for anyone actually whose resume and LinkedIn profile does not set them up for the kind of job that they want to do. So, so what are some ways that you can overcome that? So, and what I want you to think about, again, you can say the relating piece or talking to people, but specifically for you, what is something that you can do tomorrow that helps to address your challenge? Okay, and so you do not need to accept an entry-level job when career transitioning, exactly. And so some of that is thinking through how you're going to explain the work that you've done in the past to set yourself up for what you want to do. And so that's one of the reasons why clarity is a really important job search strategy, is that you really do need to know what the employers are looking for. So that's, and it's tough to know that if you don't know what you want to do. So let's see, what else do we have here? Attending a conference. Okay, right. So you can go to a conference, there's going to be a ton of people there. And so what I recommend for people who are going to a conference, again, you want to think through what of your skills best can serve you in that environment. And so if you are really good at turning to the person next to you and introducing yourself and say, hey, what do you do? Then you want to use that a lot. If you're comfortable with public speaking, a really good thing in conferences is at the end when they have a Q&A to ask a relevant question, and or to go up to a speaker afterwards and again, if that person's relevant, then to ask if you can get their contact information and follow up with them later. So conferences are a great way to get information and also to meet people. And so, okay, and so one of the themes that we're going to talk, that, you know, I talk about every single time, every single webinar, and that people are mentioning here, is just your RPCV network. And that, and I do want to, so I'll ask, we're almost to the end of the content, and I'll ask if anyone wants a demo so I can show you some things on LinkedIn to identify RPCVs who are living in your city and or doing the kind of work that you want to be doing. LinkedIn is a really amazing database. Some people are really good at that. Some people are don't have quite as much experience, and so so great. I'll do that towards the end, and so. Okay, so let's talk really briefly. What do you do when an RPCV you'd like to connect with? So how do you approach, doesn't understand themselves, networking for careers? Okay, thank you for completing that sentence. So sometimes you got to find another one. And again, even though RPCVs, we tend to be a pretty generous giving lot, and tend to want to help each other, but not everybody in our group is what I call an advocate. You know, there's still plenty of RPCVs that just focus on their own work. And so this is where I don't want you to get discouraged if the people that you reach out to don't respond. Make sure that you've got another couple of people lined up. so that when that person doesn't respond, you've got someone else. And the other thing too is, sometimes a lot of things go into spam, or if you're connecting through LinkedIn, not everybody checks their LinkedIn. So sometimes you've got to be a little creative to find their work email address and just say, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn. I was wondering if you would have time for a 20-minute conversation. I'm interested in working at your organization. And so that's a really good way to short, simple, to the point, to write an email to somebody, to set up an informational interview that will, that can lead to either some job leads or for them to really advocate for you when you're applying for something. And so a lot of this is if this is a strategy of reaching out to people that you don't know, is a strategy that you're comfortable with, then keep using that until you develop your network of people. If this is something where you get really frustrated and feel really dejected when you're not getting responses, then is that one of your strengths? Is there something else that you could bring into? Again, like volunteering or working for a temp job or doing that research or participating in online forums. So a lot of these, I wish there was a magic bullet. And I think everybody who has looked for a job wishes that there was a system that if you just did these simple steps, you would get hired for the job that you love. A lot of this is luck. And the way that you get lucky is to be patient and persistent and to take care of yourself. And so again, if you are struggling between eating and finding a job, then you might want to think in terms of stepping stone jobs, something that is moving you in the direction that you want to go in, but isn't your ideal. Federal jobs, for example, can be really tough because they can take 3 to 6 months to get hired. And so if you're just focusing on the federal jobs and you're running out of money, then think in terms of, is there a temporary job that you could do, or is there someone that you know that you could work with or for part-time so that you've got enough financial stability that you're not freaking out. Okay, so if you are struggling with how do I know what my strengths are, hopefully this gave you some really good ideas. And if you want more, and I saw that, I forget who, but someone said that they love personality tests and assessments. So here's what I recommend. So Strengths Finder is now known as Clifton Strengths. And so that is just what it says. You take an assessment and it tells you what you're good at. There's a personality assessment called Via Profile, and that I found really useful. And the Myers-Briggs, so MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Inventory, when you take that, you get a report and it tells you what your strengths are, and tells you what jobs you should do. Take that with a grain of salt, because there's no one assessment that's going to tell you this is your perfect job. It can only say that based on statistics and algorithms. But MBTI is really good at helping you identify strengths. The Colby Index is one that's a really interesting one that helps you understand how you implement projects. And if you start implementing projects by researching, by creating systems, by brainstorming, or like by building something hands-on. And so it's another way of looking at yourself that can be helpful in understanding how you can approach a job search. So my Career Design Studio, so this is an online program that I've designed that is like very, very focused on strengths. So it gives you a lot of it gives one assessment, several results, and gives you a lot of strengths that you can then choose from to say, Okay, this is what I'm good at. And then you can take a look at that list and start understanding how you can leverage that. Then another way is just ask people who know you and, you know, who are nice, but give honest feedback. We don't always see what we're good at. So, so again, if you're struggling with, I don't have any strengths, you do. Everybody has something that they're innately good at. We don't often see it because it's the air that we breathe. But if you're struggling in that, then this is a good way to help you understand what you can do. So what I want to talk about, and then what I'd like to do is kind of go through the questions and then give really specific advice to people. So if you want me to talk really specifically about your situation, then then you can put in the chat box, yes, please see what I wrote before, and I'll scroll up and I'll find that. And so I'll do as many as I can do. And so we've got about 15 minutes left. And so so that's what we're going to spend our time. But the other thing that I want to let you know is that if you need some more structure and some more assistance, I've got a Facebook group where we'll be doing a challenge, a 7-day challenge on this concept. So how to turn your strengths into a job search strategy. And so every day you get a little challenge that's about 15 minutes to help you identify your strengths and your assets, and then to choose those strategies to match your strengths, and then create a plan to leverage that strategy. So if this information that I'm talking about is a little esoteric or theoretical, then please join my Facebook group to make this more real. And okay, so I just see ONET has an assessment. Absolutely, thank you so much. The reason why I didn't include ONET, ONET is a really great resource, but it really focuses on jobs that are related to your interest rather than your strengths. So it's a really good way of thinking about what's important to you, but it's a slightly different perspective. And so I don't want to disown it. There's a ton of other career assessments that I didn't mention that are really, really useful and really good. I wanted to focus on the ones that really help you identify your strengths particularly, rather than your skills. So strengths are what come natural to you. Skills are things that you can develop. You can be skilled at something and not necessarily all that great at it. You just have a lot of experience. That, for me, that's project management. Got a ton of experience in project management, not a great project manager. So anyways, okay. So let's go back to, so here's the identifying your strengths. Now, in the follow-up email, you will get a list of all of these with links to them. So you can just click and take the assessment. Some of them cost money, some of them don't. And so if you haven't registered, please register, go to rpcv.org and sign up for this webinar. It is not too late, even though you're already on it. And then you'll be able to get links to all of these. And okay, so I think, okay, so I'm seeing some chat around what Emma has talked about staying positive when you're discouraged. So this is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I spend a lot of time with my clients of how to identify ways to keep yourself motivated. I talked about that in the last session. And so again, the email that we'll send you will give you a link to that. But basically, you want to set up rewards for yourself for the effort that you make. So don't just celebrate when you get a job, but celebrate or give yourself a little treat when you've done something working toward your goals. And again, working through your strengths is one way of doing that. That's why I wanted this session, is because if you're not really great at applying to jobs and that's all you're doing, that's going to be really demotivating. If you love talking to people, please talk to people. Okay, so I'm just looking to see. Okay, how do you motivate yourself to job search when you know the job you're currently in is not for you, but it's okay, and you can make it work, and you've only been in the job for less than 6 months, so it seems a bit premature. So what I really want to recommend, Kristen, is that what you can do right now is start building your network towards the kind of jobs you want to do. So get clear about what's going to be a better fit for you. Look for RPCVs who are doing those jobs, and get in contact with them. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest applying for jobs right away, but even I would encourage you to think of this as a stepping stone job, and give yourself permission to keep moving toward what you want to do, because the only person who's going to look out for your career is you. So if you find an opportunity that you are more interested in, you've only been at your job for 6 months, apply for it anyways. And so as long as you know that that's getting you closer to what you want. So the Facebook group is also going to be in the email. So if you're having a hard time finding that, and it is, thank you, Susan, it is my career design studio. And so that's a good way to find it. But again, you can click on the link in the email that we're going to send out in just a moment. And all right, so let us do a demo. And I am going to, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing and then share with LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm gonna do something that, there's a couple of ways. So let's say that you want to be a program officer. And so what I want you to do is look for program officer in people. The reason why you want to look for people is that then you can filter by location. And so let's say that I'm going to say Washington, D.C. because there's a ton of program officers here. And so that's stage one. But then you'll see over here, so you've got people, Washington, D.C. area, connections, current companies, all filters. So if you click on all filters, you can go to past companies and put in Peace Corps. Click on apply. And so here, now this will give you people who aren't RPCVs but have worked at Peace Corps. There's not a lot of those people, but there are some. And but anyone who's got Peace Corps in their LinkedIn profile and have program officer as their as a job for them are going to show up here. Now, if you wanted to get even more specific, then you could put in, so let's look at everybody who works at USAID in the DC area who are program officers. So here are 209 people. Granted, Washington, D.C. is lousy with RPCVs. We've got a ton of us, which is, a good thing and a bad thing. It means that international development's a little bit more competitive, but we've got community here. But here there are 209 people who are at USAID, who are program officers. And so again, these are people that you can reach out to. And what, and there's so many tips here that I want to give you. So I'm just going to like give you the fire hose. Again, you can watch the recording afterwards. But if you have free access to LinkedIn, if you don't pay for premium, there's good reasons to pay for premium, but not everybody's got the resources for it. So if you don't click on every single profile, because LinkedIn limits how many profiles you can look at for free if you just click on them here. However, for some reason, if you actually put in a name, and Drew, now, you know, MEAU. Now this is someone who I have access, you know, who's I'm first level connected with, but if you did search in a name and clicked on it for that, for some reason, it doesn't count. So what I recommend is that you take note of the people that you want to contact. And I've got an organization spreadsheet. So Anne, please remind me to include that, and we can send out a copy in the email as well, where you can keep track of the organizations that you're interested in, as well as the people who work there. And so I recommend you put in USAID, and then you list all the people that are working for USAID there, and then you can go back and start looking at profiles to decide who you want to connect with. The other thing that I do recommend is that you look for email addresses rather than LinkedIn. So you can like Google, okay, so maybe it's, you know, Andrew Mao, how do you pronounce his name? Doesn't matter. And put his name in, USAID email. And if you can find his USAID email, then you can send him a direct request. And then there's less likelihood of them not seeing it, more likelihood of them seeing it. You don't want to spam people. You don't want to stalk them. You don't want to send them an email every 5 minutes. But what I recommend is the people you want to talk to, send them an email. If you don't hear back from them in 5 to 7 business days, send them a follow-up because it might have gone into spam or something like that. Oh, okay. Are you guys seeing me? I just realized, I think I'm sharing this. Okay, sorry. Zoom got a little wacky on me. So anyways, so if you don't hear back from the person, you email them once more, and then from there, then you know that they're not the person that's going to be an advocate for you. So basically, this is a really good way of identifying people to talk to. Obviously, the RPCV connection, super duper useful, and this is how you find that. But you can reach out to people that you don't have that connection with. Another cool thing that I want to show people who are interested in this. So let's put in a university. George Washington. So let's just say that you went to GW. And because people that you either have RPCV connection with, or that you went to school, you know, have a common school, there are people who are most likely going to respond to you. So it's not a guarantee, but you certainly want to up your odds. So your alumni are really good ways of doing this. Now, what I love is this alumni tool. And because here, what you get is, so there's, 160,000 alumni in LinkedIn, and 65,000, almost 66,000 in the Washington, D.C. area. So then you can see where they work. And so this might be useful. Okay, if you want to work for Department of State, there's over 600 people who work there. If you're trying to figure out where you want to work, like I've never heard of Leidos before, that might be something interesting. And so this can give you some ideas of other places that they work at. And you can also go by what they do. So if you want to, so this can narrow it down, community and social services, you can narrow it down by what they studied, but you can also search by a job title. And so let's just put in gender specialist. And so this will give you close to 1,200 alumni in the DC area who have gender specialist in their LinkedIn profile. And then and where they work. And then you scroll down and you see their profiles. And so same thing, you see someone you want to talk to, put them on the spreadsheet, and then connect with them and ask them for a 20-minute conversation. Okay, I'm gonna stop my share. And so I love the alumni tab. I'm glad someone else got some joy out of that as well. There's some really cool stuff here. And so most people see LinkedIn as kind of like Facebook for professionals, where you put in your profile and then you connect with people that you know. It is the most amazing job and people database in the world. So for those researchers out there, LinkedIn is a gold mine for you. Even if you're not a researcher type, if that's not your strength, it's still a gold mine. You can still identify a lot of great people. And okay, so I can go for another 5 minutes. So are there any other questions that I haven't gotten to that people want to know about? And I'm glad that we got to the LinkedIn search, because I think that is really, it's a lot of fun too. So if you haven't spent some time on LinkedIn, there's just so many different cross references. So any other questions? I'm glad this was helpful. And Anne, let me know, is there anything else that you've seen that would be useful for me to answer?
I think you did a great job going through all the items in the chat. There was a lot of good discussion there. Thank you everyone for typing that in. And Rhonda, I think you captured it all. I mean, there's always more. There's always more we can talk about, but this has been super, super helpful. And I did see people signing up online, registering if they hadn't registered already. So thank you. If you haven't yet done so, I will put the link in the chat again. Make sure you do, because we will follow up with all these resources in an email, and also link you to the next one as well. This is a monthly.
Yes. So next topic we're going to be talking about, and that this might not be as appropriate for this group, but navigating cultural reentry with a job search. And so I definitely want to give people ideas for how, dealing with culture shock and the job search, because those are two very tough situations to be in. And so I did see some requests for a LinkedIn webinar. So, and I think we'll see if we can't squeeze that in, because I think LinkedIn is super duper powerful. I think it's very underutilized, and I would be delighted to nerd out on LinkedIn. That is what I do. And so, yeah. Oh, and then Catherine asked about insight when NCE status does not work. And so, so Catherine, I'm going to assume that you're asking if it's not super helpful. So NCE status doesn't get you into everything. It is fairly limited. I mean, that's not fairly limited. It gives you more than the public access, but there are some jobs that would be for internal candidates only. So basically you just have to read the job description to see if that's going to be helpful for you. So I don't know if that's what you were asking, but any questions that I didn't ask, please join my Facebook group, even if you don't want to do the challenge. Even if, spending 15 minutes a day, working on your job search strategy is not your idea of fun. I completely understand, but that is a way that, that I can answer some additional questions. And also if I do offer 30-minute consultations for people who are trying to figure out where they want to go from here. And that will also be in the email. So if that can be of service of to you, please sign up for that. And also provide career counseling for people as well. So it is a delight for me to be here. I always appreciate the interaction that I get, and guys, just know that I'm rooting for you, that you can do this and it can be less painful. I'm not going to promise fun, but I think it can be more fun than it's been up until now, by, again, leveraging your strengths, connecting with your community, getting support. And so find the ways that where you enjoy interacting with people and use that. So I think we'll wrap up, and if you've got any other things to say, we can go from there. So again, please sign up for this webinar if you haven't. The email is going to be chock full of information. Oh, evaluation. There's going to be a link to the evaluation as well. Super useful for us to know, are we moving in the right direction? What can we do better? What would you like to see more of? So please share your comments with us. We look at those. We use them to plan for the future and to make adjustments. So thank you.
I'll just summarize all the chat, which is saying thank you so much, Rhonda. This is very, very helpful. And thank you to everyone for participating today. And we'll see you next month and on Facebook for your 7-day challenge in between.
Please join. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in Facebook soon.
Thanks.
Bye.